All right, so I just got done testing the 267 pump, and I tested it. It's rated up to 18 volts, so I tested it, 17.5 or what an 18-volt voltage booster puts out, and got those flow numbers right. So the boosted 267 right there at 17.5 volts, running like a basic 18-volt booster, got the amperage and flow data at 40, 50, 60, and 70 psi. So on the other side, I have the bigger, higher flowing pump that I'm going to now test at those same pressures at stock voltage. And so the purpose of this is to see, is it more efficient or better to run a voltage booster on the smaller flowing 267 pump or upgrade to the higher flowing 295 pump? I mean, cost-wise, obviously you'd have to pay for the pump and a voltage booster. The 295 pump is a little more expensive. I think retail maybe $50, but I think that's still going to be cheaper. So let's see, what's going to be more efficient to run: a voltage boosted 267 or a regular 295 at factory voltage. So that's what we're going to do. Out of the way. All right. So that put our 267 over there. So now we have the 295, which I did a fuel pump test of this before. I only tested it at 40 psi. It was 522 liters per hour. So what caught my eye is the boosted 267 was also 522 liters per hour at 40 psi. So I want to see which one is actually better, if they're going to be the same. They might have the same performance. All right, well, it looks tight. Put the 295 pump in. All right, let's put her at 13.5 volts. All right, there we go. And we are at 40 psi. It looks a little under. I want to make it as exact as I can. All right, 40 psi. $17.8 amps. Oh, look, we're at a lower current. That's gonna be the key. I'll get to that at the end, but because watts are power, the amount of heat or energy you make is, the equation is voltage times current. So when running a higher voltage, you're always going to generate more heat anyway. But the fact that you are also now pulling more current at a higher voltage, the amount of heat you're putting into your gas in your tank and into your fuel pump is just always going to be higher at a higher voltage. So I'm not surprised that at factory voltage, that pump is flowing or, pulling less current. But yeah, let's get to all the numbers here. I'll sit you back over here. Find my dry erase marker. Go. Alright, so at 40 psi, 13.5 volts, we have 17.6 amps, and flow is 2.3 which I already knew. I tested it before. So now let's dial it up to 50. There we are at 50. And I have 2.2. 2.2, and that's actually bouncing up to 2.3. No, it's sitting at 2.2. So we'll put 2.2. So maybe a tad less now at the lower voltage. And current is 18.6. All right, let me dial her up to 60 psi. All right, there's 60. I'm at 2.1. Just hit 2.2 for a second. 2.1. It might be the same, but it's leaning towards 2.1. I'm gonna leave it there. And then amperage is 19.4. All right, now dial it up to 70 psi. There's 70 psi. I am at 2.0 on flow. And amperage is at 20.3. All right. So yeah, 70 psi, 20.34, 2.0. All right. So there's our number. Dial her back down. Stay. Dial the pressure back down. Quality. Shut her off. All right, and we'll convert these to liters per hour. It's going to be similar. Obviously, that one flows the same. So it looks like these other numbers are just going to be a tad under. So I will calculate them. 2.2 times 227.125. 499.7. So let's call that 500. 500. 2.1 times 227.125. 477. And 2 times 227.125. 454. All right. So yeah, pretty identical performance. So could pretty much say, like, if I was going to voltage boost a 267, could also just upgrade to a 295. The numbers are extremely similar flow wise. Current, I'm putting less heat into my pump and into my fuel, into my gas tank, right? So this pump is going to live longer, a longer life. It's going to have less wear. The wear rate in the motor in the pump is going to be slower on a lower current pump than a higher current pump. That's just how it works. So let's actually look at the difference in current. So at 40 psi, we had 20.2 amps on the boosted 267, minus 17.6 on the 295 pump. 2.6 amp difference divided by 17.6, 0.147. So that's 15%. So at 40 psi, the 295 has 15% less current draw. And most of these numbers are probably going to be similar. So let's just jump up to like the 60. So 21.5 minus 19.4, 2 amps. It's going to be a very similar number. Divided by 19.4, 1, 2. Yeah, 12%. So they're similar gains. So, and then all the way up at 70, 2 amps. So you're about 2 amps less, which equates to about 15%, give or take, at the different pressures. So what does that tell me? Pump's drawing 15% less current. It's more efficient. The measure of how efficient a motor or a fuel pump is at a working voltage, drawing the minimum amount of current to move the same amount of fuel, right? So we can do, actually, let's look at heat. That's probably the bigger thing. So, yeah, okay, 15% more current. 2 more amps. Not a big deal. But that's 2 amps at 17.5 volts. That's more heat energy, like I mentioned earlier in the video. So let's do the 40 comparison. So 13.5 volts times 17.6 amps is 230, rounded up to 238 watts. So here, this pump is making 238 watts. And our voltage boosted 267 pump is at 17 volts and making 20.2 amps. So that's 354 watts. That's a substantial difference in the amount of heat you're putting, the pump's generating and the fuel's having to cool. The other part of this is, I'm not testing it, but hot flow loss. So as your temperature of your fuel increases, you lose a little bit of flow because it's less dense. That's just a phenomenon of fuel pumps or pumps in general, temperature of the fluid. But so let's calculate the difference percentage-wise there. So 354 minus 238 is 116 watts. It's pretty substantial. Divided by 238, 487, 49. So that's 49%, almost 50% more current draw and heat trying to voltage boost this pump. Even though this pump is efficient when we were testing it earlier, like these numbers are better than if I was trying to voltage boost a pump not designed to run to 18 volts, which there is no factory pump like that. Some people will try to say factory fuel pumps are good, but when OEMs manufacture cars, they deal in pennies. So they wouldn't engineer and design and spend money on a fuel pump that could run at a higher voltage if the car is never ever going to run at that voltage. It's in the aftermarket where you find pumps that are designed to run at 18 or 24 volts, right? Namely in-car pumps. Really nothing's really much higher than 18, but so that's that. So in conclusion, the bigger pump is way more efficient again than a voltage booster. So even though looking at these numbers like I was just talking about, it was decent at a higher voltage compared to what's lower, the gain you got, because this pump gained 100 liters per hour flow with the voltage boost. It's just making way more heat. It's not as efficient. It's not going to run as long. It's going to wear quicker. So that's it. Pretty straightforward there. Really cool to see. Similar performing. The higher voltage gives a little more torque in the motor. I'd imagine that's why at these higher pressures it's edging out the flow. Not much, right? But it is a tad more. But looking at that, would I take, at 50 or 60 psi, would I take an extra 10 liters per hour, 5%-ish, over creating 50% more heat? Nope, no way. Would not do that. So there you go. This was a cool test. Thanks.